He stood outside the glass wall every night, a security guard invisible to the world. They saw a cheap uniform. He saw a future they couldn't imagine. He had no degree, no money, and a broken phone. But while they slept, he was planning a revolution. They laughed then. They aren't laughing now. Stop. Look at the person guarding your office building. Look at the person serving your coffee. Do you see a uniform, or do you see a mind that could change the world? We are often told that talent naturally rises to the top. That is a comfortable lie. The truth is, sometimes talent is buried under heavy layers of dust, poverty, and silence. Today, I am going to tell you a story that might hurt you. It might break your heart before it heals it. Because this isn't just a story about a boy named Liam. It is a mirror, and when you look into it, you might see the version of yourself that you are too scared to let out. Welcome to Glaze English. Before we step into this fire, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep these stories alive and reach more dreamers like you. Let's go to a town that maps forgot. Liam was born here. It was a place where the air was dust and resignation. People here didn't dream of flying. They just tried not to fall. His family was what they call middle class, but let's be honest. That is just a polite word for barely surviving. I want you to picture his father, a mechanic with grease permanently under his fingernails, his back bent like a question mark from years of fixing other people's cars. He never complained, but his silence was loud. His mother was a magician who made dinner out of nothing, hiding her own hunger so her children could eat. In this environment, hope is a dangerous thing. It feels safer to just keep your head down. But Liam had a unique problem. He was obsessed with the impossible. Every evening, he stood by his window, watching the shiny cars drive past. He saw the laughing families, the clean clothes, the ease of life. Most people look at that and feel jealousy. Liam felt curiosity. He didn't ask, why them? He asked, how? While other kids played in the dirt, he walked 3 kilometers to a crowded, humid cyber cafe just to stare at screens. He saw code. He saw people building entire worlds with nothing but their minds. He realized that in the world of software, no one cares if your father is a mechanic. They only care if your code works. He decided, right there in the smell of stale coffee and old computers, I will be an engineer. But reality has a heavy gravity. At 17, the dream collided with the dinner table. One night, through the thin walls, he heard his parents whispering. We have no money for college, his father said, his voice cracking. We need help. It wasn't a demand, it was a desperate plea. And Liam, being a good son, did the hardest thing a young man can do. He didn't scream. He didn't fight. He took his dream, folded it up, and put it in a dark corner of his mind. He picked up a security guard uniform. He accepted that his job was not to build the future, but to stand outside in the cold and watch other people build it. He thought his story was over. But he was wrong. The most dangerous thing in the world is a dreamer who has been forced to wake up. But wearing a uniform does not stop a mind that is designed to fly. This brings us to the most painful part of Liam's journey, a phase I call the proximity paradox. There is a special kind of torture in being inches away from your dream, separated only by a sheet of glass you are not allowed to touch. Every night at 9 p.m., Liam reported for duty in front of a massive, glowing technology park. Inside that building, the air was cool, the chairs were soft, and the coffee was free. Inside, people were writing the code that Liam dreamed about. They walked past him with badges on their chests and laptops in their bags, looking important, looking purposeful. Outside, Liam stood in the cold wind, holding a wooden stick, invisible to the very people he wanted to be. To them, he was just part of the scenery, like a tree or a gate. They didn't know that while they were fixing bugs inside, the security guard outside was building a new life in his head. While other guards smoked cigarettes or slept during their breaks, Liam activated his secret weapon. He had a second-hand smartphone with a cracked screen. The battery died in 2 hours. It couldn't run games. But it had YouTube. He would sit in the darkest corner of the parking lot, hiding his phone so his supervisor wouldn't see the light. He typed with freezing fingers. HTML for beginners. How does JavaScript work? The internet connection was terrible. Sometimes a 5-minute video would buffer for 20 minutes. Most people would close the phone in frustration. Liam stared at the loading circle like it was a lifeline. He didn't speak English well, so he rewound the videos 10 times just to understand one sentence. When he couldn't afford data, he downloaded free PDF textbooks and read them by candlelight in his small room after his shift ended. He slept 4 hours a day. His eyes burned red. His brain felt like it was filled with fog. But he kept telling himself, "I am not stuck. I am just paused." But isolation is a poison. When you are the only one trying, you start to question your sanity. His friends told him he wasn't smart enough. His father told him to be realistic. One night, at 2:45 a.m., the weight became too heavy. Liam had been awake for 20 hours. He was staring at a line of code he didn't understand. He was hungry, tired, and deeply lonely. He looked up at the shining office building, and tears finally fell. He whispered to the darkness, "Am I crazy? Is it really impossible for someone like me?" That is the breaking point. That is where most people quit. But then the universe answered. A young engineer walked out of the building. He looked tired. He saw Liam sitting on the curb with a notebook and stopped. "What are you doing?" he asked. Liam looked up, terrified he would get in trouble. "Trying to learn code, sir," he whispered. The engineer didn't laugh. He didn't walk away. He paused, looked at the messy handwriting in the notebook, and smiled. "That is brave, man. That is really brave." He walked away, but he left something behind. Validation. Liam didn't need money. He didn't need a job offer. He just needed one person from the inside to tell him he wasn't delusional. That 5-second interaction changed the chemical composition of his brain. It proved that the glass wall was not unbreakable. That moment of validation was powerful. But motivation is like a match. It burns bright and then it dies, leaving you alone in the dark again to do the actual work. After months of stealing Wi-Fi and reading until his eyes blurred, Liam decided it was time to build something real. He spent 2 full weeks writing a basic website using only HTML and CSS. He poured every ounce of his new knowledge into it. He didn't sleep. He barely ate. He was fueled by the terrifying hope that he could create something from nothing. With shaking hands, he finally clicked Run. The screen went white. Error. He tried again. Nothing. 1 missing semicolon, 1 logical mistake, and 2 weeks of hope evaporated in a second. That night, he didn't go home. He sat on the dirty stairs of the building he guarded, his head in his hands. He felt like a fraud. He thought, maybe my father is right. Maybe guards stay guards forever. A week later, the universe offered him an exit. His father handed him a crumpled pamphlet for a local factory. "They are hiring laborers," his father said softly, his eyes full of worry. "It is a permanent job, son. $200 a month. No night shifts. It is better for you." Here is the seductive trap of mediocrity. The factory job was safe. It was easy. It would solve the immediate hunger. It was exactly what someone like him was supposed to do. But Liam knew something deep in his gut. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. He realized that if he took that factory job, the part of him that dreamed would die. He would spend the rest of his life explaining to himself why he quit. So he refused. He went back to the laptop. He didn't just reread the code, he tore it apart. He learned the hard way that you can either fail and quit, or you can fail and get smarter. Failure is just data collection. The second time, the website worked. It was ugly, it was basic, but it was alive. Emboldened by this small victory, Liam made a bold move. He started applying for jobs. Not guard jobs, developer jobs. He had no degree, no certificate, no fancy English. Just a portfolio of self-taught projects and a fire in his belly. He sent applications to 80 companies. And here is the reality check that most stories skip. He didn't get a fairy tale instant yes. He got 79 rejections. Some were automated emails. Some were silence. Some were cruel recruiters laughing at a security guard applying for an engineering role. Imagine the resilience required to open your email every morning and see nothing but "You are not good enough" 79 times. But Liam understood the math of success. You can lose 79 times. You only need to win once. He didn't need everyone to believe in him. He just needed one door to crack open. And then it happened. The 80th company replied. They didn't ask for his degree. They simply said, "Your journey is different. Let's talk. That one sentence was the oxygen he needed to keep breathing. That one email opened the door, but stepping through it required a courage that most people never have to find. On the day of the interview, Liam faced a humiliating problem. He didn't own a suit. He didn't own a tie or a dress shirt. He looked at his small closet and saw only two things: his casual rags and his security guard uniform. So, he did the only thing he could. He washed his uniform until it was spotless. He ironed it until the creases were sharp. And he walked into that corporate office wearing the very symbol of his limitation. The receptionist looked confused. The other candidates in their expensive suits stared at him. But Liam walked into the interview room with his head high. The manager looked at his brown uniform and asked, "Tell me about yourself." Liam didn't lie. He didn't try to hide his past. He looked the man in the eye and said, "I work as a security guard at night, but I spend every morning studying code because I want to become something I have never seen around me." The room went silent. It was a heavy, thick silence. Then the manager smiled and said, "You are not what we expected, but you are exactly what we are looking for." They hired him as an intern, unpaid, no salary, just a chair and a chance. But for Liam, that chair was a throne. It was the first time he walked through the main glass doors of a tech building, not to guard it, but to work inside it. However, getting in is only half the battle. Surviving inside is a different war. Liam walked into the office on his first day wearing a cheap shirt he bought from a street vendor. He was surrounded by interns from top universities who spoke perfect English and carried expensive laptops. Liam sat in the corner with an old, noisy computer, terrified. He felt like a fraud. He felt like a ghost who had sneaked into a party. During lunch, a senior engineer asked the table, "So, which college did you guys graduate from?" Everyone answered with pride. When they looked at Liam, he put down his sandwich. "I didn't go to college," he said softly. "I was a night guard before this." The awkward silence that followed cut him deeper than any rejection letter. He realized then that the world might open the door, but you have to prove you deserve to stay in the room. He stopped trying to be smart. He started trying to be useful. 3 months later, a critical bug appeared in the company's product. Senior engineers tried to fix it and failed. The manager was stressed. Liam raised his hand. "I will try." He took the code home. For 48 hours, he didn't sleep. He treated the code like a puzzle that his life depended on solving. And finally, at 4 a.m., he found the error. He fixed it. The next day, the manager didn't say, "Good job." He just smiled and offered Liam a full-time contract. The salary was $300 a month. To you, that might be nothing. To Liam, it was everything. When the money hit his bank account, he cried. He went home and handed the cash to his father. The old man's hands shook as he held the money. He looked at his son and said something that erased 20 years of pain. "I thought your dream was too big, but maybe I was just too tired to believe." That apology from his father healed the past, but time has a way of turning small victories into empires. Years have passed since that night. The security guard uniform that once defined Liam's limits now sits folded at the bottom of a dark cupboard. It is untouched, but never thrown away. It is a monument to where he came from. Today, Liam sits at a desk in one of the world's top technology companies. He writes code that millions of people use. He leads teams. He travels through airports with a laptop in his bag and a passport full of stamps. When he walks past security guards now, he doesn't just see a uniform. He stops. He smiles, because he knows that behind that stoic face, there might be a universe waiting to explode. He didn't buy a Ferrari with his first big check. He bought his parents a new bed so his father's back wouldn't hurt. He bought a fan for the kitchen. He bought his mother a smartphone so she could video call him. And when he finally bought his first car, a modest sedan, his hands shook on the steering wheel. He remembered the boy who stood at the window watching Mercedes drive by, wondering if the world had forgotten him. The world hadn't forgotten him. It was just waiting for him to fight back. So, why did I tell you this story? Why did we dissect every painful step? Because right now, you might be standing outside your own glass building. Maybe you are the outsider. Maybe you feel like you are too old, too poor, or too late. Maybe people have told you to be realistic. But history is filled with Liams. Neil Armstrong was told space travel was impossible. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times. They were all told no. But here is the secret. The world ignores you until it can no longer ignore your results. Identify your glass wall. What is the thing you are standing outside of? And instead of waiting for someone to open the door, start picking the lock. Study while others sleep. Work while others party. Believe while others doubt. If this story made your heart beat a little faster, it means your dream is still alive. Don't let it die in the dark. I am not here to entertain you. I am here to remind you who you are capable of becoming. Nothing is impossible. Now, go prove it. So, what is the real architecture of a miracle? We look at Liam's life and we see the result: the job, the travel, the pride in his father's eyes. But if you look closer, you will see that the most important moment wasn't when he got hired. It wasn't when he fixed the code. The most important moment was when he stood in the cold, holding a wooden stick, and decided that his current reality was just a temporary costume, not his skin. Most of us are waiting. We are waiting for the perfect time. We are waiting for enough money, enough support, or enough confidence. We treat our dreams like fragile guests that can only enter when the house is perfectly clean. But Liam teaches us a brutal truth. Dreams do not need a perfect environment to grow. They grow in the cracks. They grow in the dark. They grow in the spare moments between a night shift and a sunrise. The lesson here is profound yet simple. You do not need permission to upgrade your life. You do not need a university to stamp a paper to tell you that you are intelligent. You do not need a manager to tell you that you are valuable. Liam gave himself permission to be an engineer long before anyone paid him to be one. He identified himself by his future, not his past. So, how do you apply this? Stop looking at what you lack. If you don't have a computer, use a phone. If you don't have a phone, use a library book. If you don't have money, use your time. The resources you need are usually hidden inside the excuses you make. Start ugly. Start small. Start while you are tired. Because the version of you that is waiting at the finish line is begging you to just take the first step. Now, I want to ask you a question. I want you to be honest with yourself and with us. What is the one dream you have put in the corner because you thought you weren't ready or good enough yet? Please write it in the comments below. Let's turn the comment section into a wall of declarations, not a wall of silence. Read the other comments, support each other, and prove that we are not alone in this fight. And if this story woke something up inside you, if it gave you just a little bit of fuel to keep going, please subscribe to Glaze English. We are building a community of fighters here, and we need you with us for the next chapter. Nothing is impossible. We will see you in the next video.